Hey gang, so what's going on? So I've got a special video I'm putting out tonight. It is the top 6 free agents and their most obvious landing destinations for their new team next year if they go to a new team. And then their top 3 sleeper destinations on teams that we could think, that I think, or you guys think, could just swoop in and grab them out of the air. And then I'm doing the top 5 trade targets that will follow that. Again, with their top 3 most obvious destinations, and then their top 3 sleeper destinations. But before I get into that, hit that like, subscribe, and bell icon buttons if you like this kind of content, Yankees or baseball. It is gratefully appreciated and very helpful for the channel. So let's get on to the topic of the free agents. So starting at number 6, we have Masataka Yoshida of the Oryx Buffaloes out in Japan. Yes, he is being posted for teams to bid over him and negotiate. So the obvious destinations are the New York Yankees, the Seattle Mariners, and the San Francisco Giants. Now, with the Giants, they are looking to obtain the services of Masataka Yoshida, and he is highly touted by them. He's being looked at by them very closely because of the whole Japanese market out in California. So that is an obvious destination point for him. Seattle, it's the same thing. They had Ichiro there, so they have a very close relationship with Japan and their superstars. And then with the Yankees, because of who they've had in the past with Matsui and whatnot, but all 3 teams need outfield help. So they're all looking at him for that reason. But the Yankees have been heavily linked to him, so we will see. But those are the obvious 3 destinations for him. But the sleeper destinations are the Red Sox, the Dodgers, and the Rays. Now, I can see the Rays swooping in and trying to nab him because that's the kind of team they are. They do sneaky stuff like that. They come in out of nowhere when no one thinks that Tampa Bay is even looking at them, and they take guys like that. I could see Boston as a sleeper just because of the fact that they're rivals with the Yankees, and also they are looking to bolster their outfield as well, but I don't see them as a heavy favorite, which is why I'm putting them as a sleeper. And the Dodgers, the same thing, because they're right now currently looking at Aaron Judge, which we'll get to a little bit later. But that is a number 6 free agent, Masataka Yoshida. I do think that he will end up with the Yankees at some point. It'll come down to Seattle and the Yankees will end up getting his services. Moving on to number 5 from the New York Mets, Jacob deGrom. The obvious ones are Texas, Atlanta, and Tampa. And the sleeper are the Giants, the Dodgers, and the Orioles. The reason why Texas is a heavily favorited for this is because he said publicly that he would play for Texas and he wants to play for him. So it looks like his days in a Mets uniform are done. Tampa Bay and Atlanta are 2 other favorites because Tampa Bay is home for him. He is from Florida. So I could see him going there for that reason. And Atlanta, because Atlanta could always use another starter, and that's what they do best. They are just like Tampa, and then only in the National League. They are a pitching factory, and they love getting starters. And Jacob deGrom would be the ace that they could use to help Max Fried in that rotation. So those are the 3 favorites. As for San Francisco, it's a long shot with them, but because they're probably going to lose Rodon, they might press hard for him. So that'll be interesting to see. And the Dodgers, well, it's the Dodgers. They'll hone in on anybody, and they'll end up paying for guys like that. So I could see him going to the Dodgers. Baltimore's an interesting sleeper because it's Baltimore. They really emerged last year. So I could see him I could see the Orioles trying to make a play for him and pulling off a Tampa Bay move by being sneaky and coming in out of nowhere. So I could see that. So that is the three obvious and sleeper ones for Jacob deGrom. Moving on to number 4, Xander Bogarts of the Boston Red Sox. Now, the three obvious ones are Baltimore, the Cardinals, and the Phillies. The sleepers are the Yankees, the Mariners, and the Braves. Now, I could see him ending up in either St. Louis and Philadelphia for the reasons of them needing a shortstop. I could also see them going to Baltimore in the event that Baltimore strikes out with Trey Turner or Carlos Correa, and that they are in the market for a high valued superstar shortstop. So I could see either one of those three teams landing him. So that would be the obvious pick. The Yankees, I could see doing something like that as a stopgap situation, then moving him over if need be. Seattle, I could see doing to give J.P. Crawford a little bit of a different look at a different position and might help him out, and it would give that team another bat and a depth that they didn't have last season in the offensive category. So I think that would really help. And Atlanta, well, they're losing Dansby Swanson, so, more than likely. Unless they, by the off chance, happen to re-sign him, I think they're going to lose him, so they're going to be in need of a shortstop as well. So I think Atlanta could be in the mix for one of the big-time shortstops. As for my prediction for deGrom, I forgot to give that to him, and I apologize. I think it'll be Texas or Atlanta. I think it'll be between Texas and Atlanta, and I think he'll end up going to Texas. With Bogarts, I think he'll probably go to St. Louis, and Philadelphia will end up getting one of the other high-priced shortstops. Number 3 would be Trey Turner of the Dodgers, and the obvious choices would be Philly, the Dodgers, and the Yankees. His sleepers would be Seattle, Baltimore, and Minnesota. I see Philadelphia probably landing one of the big-time shortstops, but I don't think it'll be Trey Turner. I do think the Yankees will end up with Trey Turner, and I think that that's just because he would fit better with the Yankees just for what they need, and that stadium plays well for him. It would play well for his strengths. And he's a contact hitter. He's in his prime, or he's just getting into his prime. So it's a good fit for the Yankees. I do see Trey Turner going to the Yankees, and Philadelphia and the Yankees will be bidding it out for him. For number 2, it's Carlos Correa of the Minnesota Twins. The obvious choices are Minnesota, Baltimore, and Seattle. The sleepers are the Yankees, Philly, and Atlanta. But with Trey Turner going to the Yankees, in my opinion, or in my prediction, Carlos Correa to the Yankees probably won't happen. I see them more or less being in the hunt for it for Minnesota, Seattle, or Baltimore. I do, however, see Carlos Correa going to Seattle in this scenario. I think it's too good for Seattle to pass up. I think they're going to throw the money at him because they are trying to dethrone the Houston Astros, the world champs. I see Carlos Correa going to Seattle in this, and I think it's a perfect fit for him. I think Seattle will end up getting Correa, but it's going to come down to Baltimore and Seattle and who wants him more. I think Seattle's going to get that. So I think Seattle goes out and signs Carlos Correa. And for the last free agent, number 1, Aaron Judge. Between the Yankees, so he is from the Yankees, as we know. The obvious choices are the Yankees, the Dodgers, and Seattle. And the sleeper are Baltimore, San Francisco, and the Mets. For this one, I think San Francisco probably won't get him just because of the fact that they've already said that he's not the number 1 priority. I think the Yankees are going to do what they can to get him, but I think they're not going to retain him, unfortunately. I think he will probably go to the Dodgers, and Mookie Betts, who has publicly said he will move to second, will move to second in this. So I see Judge going to the Dodgers. I think it's going to be between Seattle and LA. I think LA is going to outdo him. They're going to outbid him. and he's going to go to the Dodgers. Moving on to the trade targets. So, we have Pablo Lopez of the Miami Marlins. The obvious choices for landing destinations are the Yankees, the Orioles, and the White Sox, surprisingly enough. I think the White Sox are the obvious choice just because of the fact that the White Sox could use some more pitching. Not to say that Lance Lynn and Lucas Giolito and Dylan Cease aren't enough, but you can never have enough pitching, and I could see Kenny Williams making a deal like that. But I think it's going to come, and then the sleepers, for that, are the Dodgers, Seattle, and Toronto. I think at the end of the day, the Yankees are going to end up with Pablo Lopez because of how close they were at the trade deadline to making a deal to getting Pablo Lopez. But instead of it being two obvious ones that are going to be in a bidding war, I think it's going to come down to the Yankees and Toronto, the two AL East rivals. And I think that those two are going to be in a bidding war for Pablo Lopez's services. And Pablo Lopez will end up going to the Yankees. So the Yankees get their pitcher, the Yankees get their outfielder, and they get their infielder. Moving on to the second one, which is Brian Reynolds. The obvious choices again are the Yankees, Tampa, and Atlanta. And the sleepers are the Mets, the Rangers, and Seattle. Ultimately, I think it's going to come down between the Yankees and Tampa Bay, but I think the Yankees will pull off a deal for him. I do think that will complete the Yankees' off-season. That means they get two outfielders and a pitcher and an infielder, which is what they so desperately need. So the Yankees will end up with Brian Reynolds. The obvious choices are not bad choices, but I do think Brian Reynolds will be a Yankee. But I think it's going to come down to the Tampa Bay Rays and the Yankees. But the Yankees will put together a better package. So we'll wrap up the Yankees off-season. The next one I have is Sean Murphy of the Oakland A's with the obvious destinations of St. Louis, Detroit, and Chicago, with the sleepers as Atlanta, New York, and Tampa. New York Yankees, that is. I see St. Louis pulling off a deal to get Sean Murphy because their catcher, Yadier Molina, has officially retired from baseball, and they need a catcher. So I think Sean Murphy will go to St. Louis in a deal, and I think that is the obvious choice, but it'll come down to Detroit and St. Louis, with St. Louis coming out on top. In the next one, we have Ian Happ. Between the obvious choices, it's the Yankees, the Braves, and the Phillies, while the sleepers are Seattle, Baltimore, and Tampa. I see a sleeper in this getting Ian Happ, and I think that sleeper is going to be Seattle. So I think Seattle is going to acquire Ian Happ for a nice package, and maybe a major leaguer like Mitch Haniger or Jesse Winker, someone like that. But I do see Ian Happ going to the Pacific Northwest and playing for Seattle. So Seattle will obtain Ian Happ. And then, last but not least, Shohei Ohtani of the LA Angels. The obvious choices are Philly, San Fran, and Toronto. The sleepers are the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Braves. I see Ohtani being traded to the Philadelphia Phillies for a hefty package. So the Phillies get their starters, their two-way stud in Shohei Ohtani. And I think with that move, that will wrap up the Phillies offseason. And the Phillies will get their man. And Ohtani will have a new home in 2022 or in 2023, But let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear your opinions. I want to know what you guys think and what your predictions are, and what do you think happens this offseason with those top 5 trade targets and top 6 free agents. Let me know what you guys think. Let's get into this. Until next time, talk to you guys later.